you know, either younger than us or, you know, passed and retired. So why not? You know, I want to challenge myself. The best always looking to fight the best and challenge themselves, you know, and why not, you know, challenge.
Terence Crawford can't beat him, right? This is a money grab for Terence Crawford. It's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy.
But if you're studying Floyd closely like I have, you will notice that he never wastes any step.
What if the fighter who perfected the art of winning in boxing finally crossed paths with a man fearless enough to challenge everything he built? Right now, the boxing world is on fire because one explosive debate is dominating every conversation. Could Terence Crawford truly threaten the legendary status of Floyd Mayweather Jr.? And after hearing what former champions, boxing analysts, and insiders are beginning to say, fans now believe this argument is nowhere near finished. During an intense interview with Stephen A. Smith, Crawford showed once again that he has never backed away from the toughest tests. While many boxers carefully protect undefeated records, avoid elite competition, and chase massive paychecks, Crawford built his reputation by doing the complete opposite, jumping across weight classes, dominating champions, and proving repeatedly that pressure only pushes him to another level. But now, any possible matchup connected to Mayweather's legacy has created chaos throughout the sport. And this is where the conversation becomes serious. Boxing legends are now comparing Crawford's ring intelligence to some of the greatest tactical fighters ever seen. Roy Jones Jr. admitted that Crawford breaks opponents down like a grandmaster playing chess. He doesn't simply fight, he adjusts, calculates, and controls opponents every second of the match. Analysts believe that exact mentality was the reason Mayweather stayed unbeatable for so many years. However, Crawford may possess that same brilliance while fighting with greater aggression, higher risks, and even stronger motivation. At the same time, several critics are cautioning Crawford against entering the world of exhibition-style money fights. They argue that dangerous battles against elite names like David Benavidez would strengthen his legacy far more than participating in flashy events connected to Mayweather. Because at this stage, the discussion is no longer only about wealth, it's about becoming unforgettable in boxing history. Then comes the most divisive topic of them all. Fans have once again started debating Mayweather's undefeated record. Did Floyd defeat legendary fighters at exactly the right moment? Did Crawford face more dangerous opponents during their absolute prime years? The arguments have turned intense, emotional, and relentless across the entire boxing community. Some still believe Mayweather's defensive genius makes his legacy impossible to touch. Others argue Crawford's dominant victories over Errol Spence Jr. completely reshaped modern boxing history. And after Crawford's recent performances, many fans are now asking one massive question. Has boxing finally discovered a fighter capable of surpassing Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s legendary legacy?
This is Terence the businessman talking, right? They got to pay the cheddar to make it better, right?
For sure, for sure. All money ain't good money, so you got to know that.
Okay, fair enough. I hate to use the word easy, but at times it did feel like you were, having a really easy time out there. Were you expecting it to play out that way?
Listen, it's never easy,
Stephen A. Smith has never been the type to hide his opinions when discussing sports in the media, and his perspective on boxing is no exception. So when he openly praises Terence Crawford for capturing world championships across 4 separate weight divisions, it carries serious meaning and feels far more important than ordinary compliments. Achievements like that are extremely uncommon in modern boxing, especially because many fighters avoid changing divisions due to the risks and uncertainty involved. Crawford separates himself from other competitors because he can move up in weight and still dominate opponents at every stage. Stephen A. Smith believes Crawford's versatility and punching power place him among the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in boxing history. That recognition represents far more than simple physical adaptability. It highlights his polished technique, his intelligence inside the ring, his mental composure under pressure, and his constant desire to challenge himself against the toughest opponents possible.
Crawford is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion. 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab, he used his distance. He had poise in the ring, he wasn't rattled. He backed up and moved when necessary and kept his different. He exchanged enough to gain respect when necessary. It was a brilliant, brilliant, masterful fight on
Roy Jones Jr., a true boxing legend who understands better than almost anyone what it takes to succeed across multiple weight divisions, has praised Terence Crawford for his intelligence inside the ring. Jones reflected on Crawford's possible matchup against Canelo Alvarez and explained that Crawford possesses a rare ability to study fighters like Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Erislandy Lara, 2 boxers who approached Canelo with completely different styles. According to Jones, Crawford's greatest strength comes from his ability to analyze opponents, learn from previous fights, and apply those lessons when the pressure is at its highest. He believes Crawford's ring awareness makes him far more than just a talented athlete and separates him as a true strategist inside the ropes. Jones noticed that Crawford never simply copies techniques from other fighters. Instead, he adjusts them to match his own timing, speed, and natural instincts, making them even more dangerous during real fights. Jones also believes Crawford's adaptability gives him a major advantage over fighters who rely on only one style and often struggle whenever they face elite competition.
His whole career, people like Erislandy Lara gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. People like Floyd Mayweather also gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. But Bud is more fierce, more fearsome and more angrier and more meaner than both of those guys. So you know if they showed you the blueprint, Bud gonna go out there, take that blueprint and do even more with it, which is what Bud did. So it was never a question in my mind whether Bud really was going to outbox me, just if he could take the punch. And right away he showed, bam, he could take the punch. So I knew from that point, if he just slow him down, which he did, he'd be okay. Then late in the fight, what other people still didn't see, late in the fight, Bud started hitting Canelo's body. One of those body shots, I think about the 7th or 8th round, hurt Canelo. I was like, whoa. Bud hit him in the right spot then, and he got Canelo's respect with that too. So Bud fought a very, very awesome fight, fought a beautiful fight, very tactical.
Very controlled.
Yes, it was a beautiful fight for boxing.
It was a beautiful fight. You know, Bud got hit with some shots.
He did. He did.
He got hit with some single shots going out. You know, he's going out and you know Canelo, if he has you trapped in the corner or along the ropes, it's typically 1 to 2 big shots. You know that if you've watched him.
Yep.
So you could tell Crawford, as he was going out, he knew the one shot was coming, and several times it landed. He even got hit with a 2-piece. I don't remember what round it was, uppercut right hand that Crawford took well. So when you started seeing him absorb the shots, if you're Team Crawford, you don't want him to take that shot. But if you started seeing that, now you know that, okay. And I think that's what gave Crawford the green light to stay there a little bit longer.
He smiled about it.
He smiled about it. Yeah. And sometimes that smile can be a lie, and sometimes that smile can mean what I think it meant for Crawford, which is, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was.
The possibility of Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather Jr. sharing the ring, even in an exhibition-style matchup, has created massive debate throughout the boxing world. Some critics believe that a contest like this could raise questions about Crawford's long-term legacy in the sport. From their perspective, participating in a show fight might distract from the incredible accomplishments he has already achieved, including his dominant victory over Errol Spence Jr. and his brilliant performances against elite opponents like Canelo Alvarez. They argue that such a decision could appear more focused on securing a huge payday instead of continuing to build a legacy defined by meaningful challenges. The debate has grown even stronger because many of Mayweather's recent appearances have felt more like high-priced entertainment events rather than serious career-defining contests. A large number of fans believe Crawford has worked far too hard and sacrificed too much to risk being viewed as someone who chose money over legacy. However, others strongly disagree with that opinion. Crawford's supporters believe he has already secured his place among boxing's all-time greats, and that a matchup with Mayweather would only add even more excitement and attention to an already unforgettable career.
It's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy. This is what was being said, right? This is what people perceived Terence Crawford was just attempting to.
When people compare the careers of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Terence Crawford, the discussion quickly becomes intense and highly controversial. Mayweather defeated many of the biggest and most celebrated names in boxing history throughout his undefeated career. However, critics have often questioned the timing of several of those victories. Some argue that Canelo Alvarez was still developing as a young fighter when he stepped into the ring with Floyd, while Manny Pacquiao entered their long-awaited 2015 showdown dealing with physical problems and injuries. The fact that Mayweather frequently avoided rematches, especially a second fight with Pacquiao, has continued to fuel criticism and left many fans debating what could have happened differently. Meanwhile, Crawford's career is often viewed from another perspective. Many of his biggest victories came against opponents who were considered to be at the peak of their abilities when they faced him. That contrast has sparked constant arguments about whether Mayweather's flawless record was built purely through unmatched skill inside the ring or through intelligent timing and carefully selected matchups.
Still greater than Terence Crawford. We need to really talk about this now. A lot of you guys are putting Crawford a bit too high. If you want to say Crawford could beat Floyd, I'm more open to that conversation, but when you're lining up the careers, I'm gonna say Floyd every time. While they're both 5 division, Bud has become 3-time undisputed, but he's only fought 10 world champions to Floyd's 25 world champions. You can't take away the 5 division, 3-time undisputed. In terms of accolades, yeah, he probably gets the nod over Floyd. I say their accolades are about relative, considering Floyd Mayweather won Fighter of the Decade as well. But when you get to the resumes, Pacquiao, Oscar, Canelo, Cotto, Mosley, Castillo, Marquez, Zab, Gotti, Hatton, and Corley. It's probably way more people that this guy just didn't name. And then when you get to Bud's resume, not saying it's just bad, but the only names that's really worth mentioning is going to be Spence and Canelo. It's not a knock on Bud. Bud was not able to make those fights early on in his career. But I got to tell you guys what it is. Bud's resume just doesn't line up with Floyd's. Take their top 20 wins. Bud don't even got 20 wins to really sit here and name. Floyd got a good 20-something plus. Bud probably got about 15, 10 wins that we could really sit here and name. Floyd's still greater than Bud.
A respected boxing analyst named Tony Jeffries explained that Floyd Mayweather Jr. possessed something far more dangerous than fast hands or elite defensive skills. According to Jeffries, Floyd's mindset was the true reason he stood above nearly every fighter of his era. Mayweather always entered the ring fully convinced that no opponent could outthink, outmaneuver, or mentally break him. His confidence never faded, regardless of the challenge in front of him. Even during competitive fights, Floyd's belief in his superior ring IQ constantly gave him the advantage. He had a unique ability to study opponents in real time, make instant adjustments, and remain calm whenever the pressure increased. Mayweather did not rely only on physical talent to dominate his opponents. He combined mental sharpness, technical precision, and tactical awareness to create the impression that he was always one move ahead. Jeffries believes Floyd's psychological control and nearly flawless execution made him appear almost unbeatable throughout his career. In the end, he walked away from boxing with an undefeated record that still defines his legendary legacy.
Mindset, they're really confident, they really believe in themselves, but you need more than that mindset. You need to have the full package of everything that I'm talking about, what Floyd has got.
Fighters should only want to get better. The more you win, the more you should work hard. If you think about losing, you're gonna lose. All I ever thought about was winning. So that's all I know.
Floyd would visualize his success before he even stepped into the ring. There was no alternative to him but winning. And this mindset isn't just for boxing, it's for all walks of life. And I've actually done a full video talking about how I used this mindset of visualization to win my Olympic medal. And it was an absolute game changer. Now, Floyd used to use this mindset to ease the pressure that he put himself under. And he made himself think like, I'm not under any pressure right now, where he was under immense pressure.
Pressure either makes you or break you. Well, you see where I'm at, so it's obvious that I'm the type of athlete or I'm the type of entertainer that can deal with pressure. There's never no pressure.
Now, if you watch his fight in 2013 when he fought Canelo Alvarez, Canelo came in a young, strong, undefeated fighter, but by round 2, Floyd kind of had him figured out. He was reading Canelo's jab. He would slip outside and then come back with a clean counter punch, then move his feet and get out of the way. He basically had the full fight under control, and he was controlling the full rhythm of the fight. He was forcing Canelo to fight at his pace. And this is what he would do in all of his fights. He would get his opponent to do what he wanted them to do without their opponent even realizing it, which is what we call boxing IQ. Now, even though I'm not a fan of Floyd Mayweather personally, because of the time when I did meet him, what he said to me made me just feel like
Floyd Mayweather Jr. would mentally see himself winning long before he ever walked into the ring. In his mind, victory was never optional, it was something he fully expected to achieve. That mindset goes far beyond boxing and can inspire people from every walk of life. Tony Jeffries even created an entire film explaining how the power of visualization helped him earn his Olympic medal and completely changed his career. Floyd often relied on this mental approach to handle enormous pressure throughout his career. During some of his most stressful moments, he trained himself to believe that he was completely calm and in control no matter how intense the situation became.
Not me, but shocked the world. This past Saturday, Mexican Independence Day weekend, what he took on defeated another first ballot Hall of Famer, but he essentially jumped up 3 weight classes, technically 2, from 154 to 168, but only had 1 fight at 154 last August against Israel Majamov. Terence Crawford defeated Saul Canelo Alvarez, who is a 4-division champion, 2-time undisputed super middleweight, and the reigning, at the time, super middleweight world champion, undisputed world champion. And Terence Crawford beat him handily and convincingly. And because he beat him so easily, now the 63 win, 3 loss, 2 draw, 39 win by way of knockout, biggest threat has been now imposed on Terence Bud Crawford. And that's the Mexican Ecuadorian monster, David Benavidez, who is a 2-division undefeated world champion, is the 2-time WBC super middleweight and reigning WBC light heavyweight, 175-pound champion, who has a record of 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout. He stands 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. This is a fight that David Benavidez has been calling for Canelo Alvarez when he was at 168, and Canelo Alvarez strategically maneuvered around him. But Canelo Alvarez is 5'7", with a 70-inch arm reach, started his career at 147 pounds, made his real name at 154 pounds. He's not a big guy, okay? And styles make fights. Benavidez is 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. His last fight at 168 against Demetrius Andrade, he rehydrated to 193. So he's a big guy. Canelo Alvarez probably rehydrate to 182, maybe 185 max, right? He's not a big guy.
If you watch Floyd Mayweather Jr. during his 2013 fight against Canelo Alvarez, you can immediately see that Canelo was still young, powerful, undefeated, and full of confidence. But Floyd controlled the fight almost from the very beginning. He carefully studied every punch Canelo threw, slipped to the outside during exchanges, fired sharp counters, and quickly moved away before danger could return. Throughout the fight, Mayweather completely dictated the pace and flow of the action. Canelo was forced to fight on Floyd's terms instead of his own. That was something Mayweather consistently did against opponents during his career. He had the rare ability to guide fighters into making mistakes without them even realizing it. That level of control is what people describe as true boxing IQ. Even some critics who disliked Floyd personally still admitted that his intelligence inside the ring was extraordinary. Meanwhile, boxing fans continue searching for the next truly unforgettable matchup. One of the biggest rumored fights involves David Benavidez facing Terence Crawford in what many believe could become one of boxing's most exciting modern battles. Benavidez would bring major physical advantages, relentless pressure, and dangerous power, creating an entirely different challenge for Crawford. Many fans believe this type of fight would push Crawford into unfamiliar territory and truly test every aspect of his skill set. Although nothing has been officially confirmed, speculation and debate continue to spread throughout the boxing world. Most discussions focus on what fans truly want to see: meaningful, career-defining battles instead of money-driven exhibitions. For boxing supporters, a showdown between Crawford and Benavidez would represent the perfect clash between technique and aggression, intelligence and raw pressure. That contrast alone makes the potential fight feel like a dream matchup for the sport.
I said that was gonna happen. If Crawford was to win, we're gonna be seeing a lot of these debates on whether or not Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford is gonna be better. Now this is gonna be a debate for a long, long time. I'm talking about one of those debates like LeBron versus MJ, Messi versus Ronaldo. It's one of those. And the thing is, I can get behind it. Let me go ahead and say this. When it comes to resume, I do think we give Floyd Mayweather the edge. I mean, he beat a bunch of champions. He reigned for a long time. While Crawford, his resume is heavily criticized, and he's just not getting, his kind of respect for beating Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez. But if we're talking strictly off of skills, this is where things get really, really tough to talk about. I think a fair assessment of this matchup would be Floyd Mayweather wins from 135 and 140, while Crawford wins from 147 to 154. And I say that because I feel like Floyd's style changed once he got to welterweight. He became a more defensive fighter, and he just wasn't as much focused on offense. And knowing this, I feel like Crawford would have had a much better chance of handling him. And we all know, Crawford was an absolute monster at welterweight. But hey man, like I said, this is gonna be a debate for a very long time. I can't wait to hear all the talk about it. But I'm curious on your thoughts. Who you think wins in the fight? Floyd or Terence Crawford? Let's talk about it.
Comparing Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Terence Crawford will always create debate without a clear final answer. Both fighters competed against elite opponents from their own eras and repeatedly proved themselves at the highest level of boxing. Mayweather became legendary because of his undefeated record and his incredible defensive mastery inside the ring. At the same time, Crawford has built his reputation by moving through multiple weight divisions and continuing to defeat top-level challengers. Because they fought in different periods against different styles and under completely different circumstances, deciding who stands above the other is extremely difficult. That contrast makes any direct comparison incomplete and possibly unfair from the start. Instead of trying to place one fighter above the other, many people believe it is more reasonable to recognize that both men earned their place among the greatest boxers of all time.
Canelo is the guy right now in the sport that's supposed to be the man, big bad wolf. You beat him, you the wolf. Now it's like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, who else I'm gonna fight? You beat the shark, you beat the wolf. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Ain't no more ops out there. It's ops out there, but who gonna make them really want to get up? That's the
shit gotta make sense. Like you said, you beat a shark and then you beat a wolf. But there's the monster.
Yeah, there is, but that's like a real monster.
Bro, that's to me it don't make sense. But that's
really
what
a monster.
Yo, is that proof? All right, we got the legendary Pape in the building. Legend.
Sean.
But what makes sense? Like, what makes the most sense? I know you said get a line of suits, Brooks Brothers.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Your line of suits, get your money, man. Yeah, go ahead and get the easy money, man. You ain't gotta sweat no more.
What's up, boy?
Not saying you ain't gotta work, you ain't gotta sweat.
What's happening?
He's paved a career where he could sit down at a table and get this money. He could come out with a Terence Crawford series now, just doing whatever he like to do. People gonna watch. Nobody, the fighting part, people don't understand what it's like to be a fighter. A lot of times fighters really don't be interested in certain fights. It's cause when a guy see himself up here and then he's fighting a guy down here, it don't interest him. So therefore when he train, he not gonna really train. He gonna train, but he not gonna train. He not gonna listen. He gonna feel like his coach taking it too serious, and he's like, man, we ain't.
What Greg Hackett said after Terence Crawford defeated Canelo Alvarez revealed just how significant the moment truly was. Hackett described Canelo as boxing's dominant force for more than a decade, highlighting the power, reputation, and fear he carried throughout the sport. That history made Crawford's victory feel even more remarkable. Crawford did not simply survive against Canelo inside the ring. He controlled the fight and outperformed him, signaling a major shift in boxing's balance of power. Hackett explained that Crawford's performance established him as the sport's new most dangerous fighter, someone every opponent now has to prepare for and fear. In his view, Crawford currently stands at the top of boxing, This win was far more than another addition to an already impressive resume. It reshaped the hierarchy of the sport, presenting Crawford as the fighter who dethroned the longtime king and took over as boxing's new dominant force.
There was enough action, and I think Crawford displayed his skill enough, even to someone with not the most trained eye, that they know they saw a very high-level athlete perform something at a very high level last night. I think he gained the sports world's attention last night and respect. He already did after Spence, but it went to another level in this fight.
And I think even the fight itself, like just from a median level, but then the moments where they were having these exchanges, like kind of late in the fight, then people were like, all right, it was good. Then like, okay, I saw somebody like, they're squabbing, like there's a fight here. So I think it did.
And Crawford closed the show.
Yeah.
In 10, 11, 12, he stood in there and landed some hard shots and rocked Canelo at the bell. He didn't. Well, James was talking about the great Floyd Mayweather. Floyd would go up on you 8-0 and then coast, and you might as well turn the fight off at midway through the ninth. Like, you know, he's not gonna. But
the fights against Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez became major turning points in the career of Terence Crawford. Those victories removed almost every remaining doubt about his greatness inside the ring. Even before facing Canelo, Crawford's dominant performance against Spence had already silenced many critics who questioned the quality of his opposition. From the opening rounds until the final moment, Crawford completely controlled the fight with Spence and left almost no room for debate. However, it was his victory over Canelo, a fighter many people viewed as nearly unbeatable for years, that elevated his reputation to another level. Today, many boxing analysts believe those performances secured Crawford's position among the greatest fighters in boxing history. His ability to defeat elite champions across multiple weight divisions proves the level of skill, adaptability, intelligence, and dominance he brings to the sport. And with that, today's video comes to an end.